My name is Cassy Summers. Welcome to the Curious Universe podcast. Do you know what a necromancer is? Like some kind of wizard or warlock of some sort that can animate the dead, that can bring life to the dead bodies that are no longer moving and get them to do certain things. I think normally some kind of war kind of type thing where you would use them to defend yourself. Okay, necromancy. What if a lot of people have a capacity, a potency, a power, a magic with necromancy, not in the way that you think? I mean, it's around Halloween, so that's why I'm bringing up the necromancy, but we're not going to get all super creepy, okay? Don't worry. But have a capacity to actually animate things that no longer have life in them, or animate things that aren't really moving, that aren't really full of life, that are dormant. This, my friends, is one of those wonderful capacities that you can use to your advantage. But if you don't acknowledge it, you might actually be turning it against you, and it might be turning into a disadvantage. So that's why I thought we could play with it today a little bit here in the Curious Universe together. Animation. That's what we call an access consciousness, but you can imagine the necromancy if you want, because it's kind of fun. But for example, have you ever had a relationship that like all the life out of it was just dead, but you kept trying to animate, you kept trying to it's still so much energy that you could bring it back to life, but it would always require a massive amount of energy from you. And that if you weren't doing that, then nothing was moving, nothing was lively. Another example could be, we can do this with like particular parts of people. So let's say that you meet someone and they're kind of like an overall kind of grumpy, negative, maybe like borderline cruel kind of person, okay? That's just how they function. That's just how they are. Now, you being the magician that you are, like you tap into their world and you can find this little one molecule of like kindness and caring. And then you animate that. You animate it. You animate it. Animate, so that when you're around that person, they seem to have this sense of like kindness and caring. But when you're not around them, they're just that grumpy, rude, cruel person. Do you see how you could use this to your advantage? So you could animate something to create a situation to be greater. But you have to look at where are you pouring your energy into animating things without even being aware that you're doing it. And where is it actually not working to your advantage? Where are you actually creating lies in your life around the friendships, around romantic relationships? Where are you, and then where are you creating that almost confusion in other people where they have to start seeing you as the source for something? Let's say, you animate joy in people's lives, but when you're not around, they feel like they can't access that joy. So the first piece is here is to kind of recognize where you might be doing this, if you're even doing this, or where you've seen other people try and animate something in you. Like every time you're around a certain friend, you feel this like almost this artificial something show up, like this artificial like sassiness. Okay. Like you're always just so sassy when you're with them, but normally in your everyday life, in your space of being, you aren't sassy. But when you're around them, like this like energy kind of shows up and you feel like it's being kind of like animated within you. Parents will sometimes do that with their kids. They will want a certain thing, them to either behave a certain way or be the entertainer or whatever. And so they'll animate that within the child to try and get them to be more of whatever that is that they value. This is not on a cognitive level. They're not like thinking, I'm going to go do this to my kid. This is just some of the unconscious ways that people function in the world. We can bring awareness to it and become more conscious of it. Then we can, like I said, use all this to our advantage and unlock ourselves from these unconscious places that we're functioning that aren't creating the greatest possibilities. Okay, so let's just explore a little bit more. So are you somewhere in your life animating others? It could be like maybe there's bodies that you're animating around you, bodies that are maybe not wanting to be here anymore, or bodies that are lacking of life and luster, and sometimes we do this almost as a way like from caring and kindness. But again, it doesn't actually empower the body and it doesn't change, like create an overall change, right? It's something that you have to keep feeding energy into to create the movement, to create the life. You're the necromancer, right? When the necromancer stops, the bodies fall down again because there's no being in that body. The bodies are actually dead. And maybe the relationship is actually dead and the friendships is dead, or that, piece of that person, they have to want to be kind and caring, to truly be kind and caring. So it's all a facade. Yeah. And so then that goes, so now you're looking at it from both ways, right? You're looking at like, where have you been this for others? And where have others been this with you? And how confused have you actually been about how come, because if you have a particular friend that has this capacity that is animating a part of you, and then maybe you've judged yourself like, how come I can't be this way when they're not around? Like, how come it's only with them? How come? As though there's something wrong with you when you're not that. But you are great just the way you are. You don't require to be animated in some way to fit into something. What if you're great? What if you were more than great? What if you were wonderful? What if you were phenomenal? What if you could explore you in every moment, not from the animation of other people's requirements, desires, needs, wants of you? Okay, so necromancer. So now let's look for a minute as how can you use this to your advantage? Okay, let's say you are like, you're going in for like a bank loan, or you have to go have like a conversation with your kid's teacher, or there's some kind of thing going up, right? You can get a sense of an energy that you can animate within people that could create greater possibility. It's not always going to show up But if you engage with this a little bit, you might notice. So like take that grumpy person, right? If you can create, like animate a little bit of joy in them, and then they're more likely to say yes or more likely to work with you, then that's where you're using it to your advantage. It's just a momentary thing. And then you kind of can release all of that afterwards. There's a lot of like really cool energetic tools we can use to manipulate. And I know that manipulation has such a bad rap, and that's probably a whole nother podcast. But when I'm talking about manipulation, it's not about overpowering someone or abusing someone. It's actually about like handling the situation so that it creates greater for all. So if there's moments where this energy of animation comes up from consciousness, from possibility, then be the necromancer. You can enliven, like if it's a near-death experience and you need to enliven all the bodies to get their butts moving, you can do that. Be that powerful necromancer. But in your day-to-day living, and you got to check out this out for you, okay? So truth, does it actually create more for you to be animating all these people around you, or actually directing all that energy into creating your life? I would have, so in my business, I have some amazing people that I get to work with. And I would have these staff members that I would have to like almost animate them to get them to do. So I'd give them a task, right? But I'd have to go in and like I was constantly animating them just to get the task done. And I would always wonder, like, why am I so exhausted? Like I have more team members than ever, yet I feel like I'm doing double the amount of work as the boss. I'm like, all this stuff is like off my plate, but energetically, it was like I was having to animate everyone just to get them to do their role. That was a big learning moment for me to actually go, whoa, that's not my job. They have a role to play. They said yes to something, and it's actually up to them to bring the energy to meet that role. It's actually up to them to actualize and institute and to learn and to seek out assistance if they don't know what they're doing, to ask questions. And that doesn't mean that I don't tap in. If I notice there's something weird going on with the group, like I'm always energetically aware and I'm willing to contribute and be that like maestro and that wizard. However, I had to really acknowledge they're here, they're getting paid. I'm not going to animate them so that they can fulfill their role so I can pay them for me to be animating them. That's just so crazy. But I did it for years. And then if something happened, like say I so rarely ever get sick, maybe once a year or like every couple of years, right? And so if I would be like, say I would get sick and so I wouldn't have the energy to animate, I would notice no one would do even their normal roles, even the typical roles that they do every week that they've been doing for years. Everyone would just stop. I get so mad. Or every year when I do my recertification for my facilitator's license, it would be 5 days of like, hey guys, I'm out. And then travel days. So usually like 7 days. I'm like, I'm going to be off the grid for 7 days. Again, nothing would happen. Like even the common rule of like posting certain things that you do every Thursday, nothing. And like so much frustration until I really realized that it's because I had set it up this way and I was animating them all. So of course, if I'm not there with the fuel and the energy, then it's not moving. It has stopped moving because I was animating them all. You might notice you're doing this with a business. Now, I'm not saying that we're not continually gifting and receiving with the business, and the business requires energy. Absolutely. Get the difference between like contributing energy, this flow of like back and forth, gifting and receiving, and then like animating a dead business. Oh my gosh, it seems like so much work just thinking about it. I'm like, no. Or animating a dead friendship. Yes, I knew them in grade 3. We must be friends. We must still be friends. What if it's okay to not be friends? What if it's okay for the business to fall apart? What if it's okay for those people that, couldn't bring their own energy to go do something else? And that's kind of what I ended up doing is I cleaned house. It was like, if they can't bring them, and they can't bring their own energy, their own like magic, then this is never going to work, because I had to make a choice to not pay people for me to animate them so that they could do the task that they're getting paid for. It was like double paying, like triple bazillion paying. So what are you paying for with your continuous animation of others that keeps you from ever having profitability in your life? Everything that is just telling me to destroy and create it, please. Right, wrong, good, bad, bot, all nature, it's boys, bubbles, we all. That is the Access Conscious Clearing Statement. If you never heard it before, then you've probably not been on this show. We have in the description, there is a link to theclearingstatement.com. It describes the whole clearing statement, what I'm doing with it, and the whole thing. It's Dr. Dane here and Simone Millicis. They're amazing creators of Access Consciousness, which is what we do here. But you can just think about it in this 10 seconds as a magic wand. It's a magic set of words that clears out the energy, that requests of the universe to change everything. And it's so easy, and you don't have to understand it for it to work. So Necromancer. So what necromancy are you using to animate the dead, decayed, lifeless people, entities, and everything else in your life are you choosing? And everything that is times a godzillion, we destroy and create it, please. We rock it, bad, rock, bod, all day shorts, boys, poveds, and beyonds. Woo! If you're noticing, like maybe your head got a little spinny or light, or you're suddenly like a little bit, where did I go? That's just the energy coming off. That was like a big one. That was pretty great. Let's see, what else can we do on this show? We can go a little bit more, I think. So yeah. So the first thing is to acknowledge where you're doing it, and then when it's not a contribution, to actually stop doing it. And the thing is if you stop being the source for people's energy or enlivenment, they will either go find another source, which is true, but you can actually empower people to ignite their own source within. They're the fuel and the fire for them. That's so much more empowering. And it's actually so much of a greater gift than to be spending all your time trying to animate something. Like in my past relationship, I was always trying to animate a sense of nurturing from someone. And so if I poured in like a ton, and I'm talking like a ton of energy, I would get like 5 minutes of kind of a sense of nurturing or a sense of kindness from him. But it never actually felt like it came from him, because guess what? It never came from him. It came from me. I could have just been taking all the energy and nurturing myself. But I had all these decisions and conclusions that it was supposed to come from my husband, and that if he really loved me, blah, 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 blah. But what energies are you animating in others that are creating the false love, the false connection, the false communion? Whoa. And the lies of relationship you are choosing. Everything that is. Will you destroy and create it, please? Right, wrong, good, bad, POC, bot, all nature, boys, both dance. And I'll see that too. I'll see Like there's this one couple I know, and he's so lively and enlivened and joyful, right? And like actually truly kind person. And his partner, she functions typically at a very like kind of like low vibrational level. She's not overly kind. She's actually kind of like sneakily cruel to people in this really backhanded gaslighting kind of way. But when he's around her, I can perceive like he puts so much energy into like enlivening this like bit of consciousness within her, like this little bit of like joy or happiness bomb. But when he's not around, he doesn't know she's never like that. Like she just doesn't actually function that way. She doesn't have it. It's not there unless she's with him. And it's so interesting to perceive that and to and watch this occur. Because from his point of view, I always wondered, well, he doesn't know what she's like when he's not there. And you don't know what people are like when you're not there, unless people are telling you. And then that's only from their interesting point of view, right? So that's one thing you could look at. So if I wasn't like animating anything in any of these people, friendships, family, whatever, how would they actually function? Ooh. And what if they're okay to be them? What if you didn't have to change them? What if you didn't have to make them be something that they're not? What if you were willing to just receive what they can be, what they're choosing to be? And if they're looking for empowerment, you can empower them to have more, to be more, to choose more. Did, him doing that over all these years make her a happier, kinder person? No. I think he probably wished it. He would probably, if he knew, wish that he had, but it didn't. What if there was a different choice? What if he could have empowered her to be more of what she truly is? Maybe she isn't truly a happy person. And I mean that from choice, okay? Because the essence of what we all are, and this is, again, we're getting to a bigger conversation, we're all infinite beings. We are all infinite beings. That means we're infinite energies. We're infinitely happy. We're infinitely joyful. We're infinitely all of these things. But we will function how we function. And that choice of functioning is how we craft ourselves in this world. So we're playful or we're not playful. We're joyful or we're not joyful. Not that we don't have access to it, but it's the way that we've created ourselves and in how we interact with the world. So everywhere you've been created, that isn't actually even yours. Everything that has been animated within you that isn't actually true to how you would like to function, will you destroy and create all that? Right, wrong, good, bad, back, all the chores, ways, the ends. I've even seen this with, parents that like, it pleases them to have shy kids. I don't understand it, but I notice it. And so like there might be a moment where the kid had like a moment of shyness and the parent almost animates shyness in the child and tells them over and over again how shy they are. So interesting. What if that's not how they actually would like to function? How they would like to be and engage with the world? Allow the animation to go. And you're not like under attack from someone's animation. If you notice this around someone, you have the choice to just go, that doesn't work for me. Their necromancy powers aren't more powerful than you. Because remember, you're a wizard and you could just say, no, you can receive all their energy. But it doesn't have to control you. Like the necromancer. You don't have to control others. Unless it works for you in that moment, like we talked about before. I think we've gone as far as we can go on the show today, but I loved having this conversation. I would love your feedback. I would love to know if you've noticed yourself with this magical power of necromancy and what you got out of the show today. Any comments? Let's hear it. Let's go. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for exploring the curious universe with me. Your curiosity matters. And what if together we could create a greater, more curious world?